Hi, I'm Amy Mahali with Be Well Clinic, and today I want to talk to you about a question I get a lot, which is, when you tell me to eat a healthy fat, what does that mean? So today we're going to talk about healthy fats. In general, when I am saying that and recommending that you eat healthy fat, I am talking about saturated fat primarily from animal sources, like butter, sour cream, egg yolks, lard, tallow, duck fat, and all the like. But this brings up an important point about how you can know what makes a healthy fat. There's a lot of discussion about the word healthy fat and what that means in our culture. A lot of people, when they think healthy fat, are thinking a nut or a seed oil, like flaxseed oil, olive oil, or canola oil. The problem with that is that the stability of those fats is not there. It can cause problems in our bodies, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So to demonstrate that, we are going to go to the whiteboard and look at the basics of a structure of a cell. Now, when I say basics, it's because this is not a chemistry lesson. This is just highlighting the areas that are correct, but getting the understanding in a way that we can just talk about it and know what to do when we're choosing a healthy fat. First, let's look at a healthy cell. So there's some components to a healthy cell. The most and biggest component that we're going to focus on is the phospholipid membrane. And I've blown that up here. So phospholipid membrane is a collection of glycerol molecules, which are in the phosphate family, and fatty acid chains. Now, fat does not like water, right? So fat is hydrophobic, and to make the cell membrane with the fatty acid molecules, which we need, more than 50% of the cell membrane of every cell in your body is saturated fat, making up these phospholipid molecules. So what's happening is the body puts a glycerol or phosphate on the end, that's the balls here, and then the little tails are the fatty acid chains. These come together in a double layer. So inside the cell is water, outside the cell is water, and we need the fat in the middle to make the membrane. So that's how we're designed here. The other thing we have receptor sites. These are proteins that are inside the cell membrane, like the wall of the cell membrane. And there's various discussion about the receptor sites as well. In general, we learned that receptor sites have something like, this maybe is an estrogen receptor site, so we get an estrogen molecule, which has the same shape, or this one's a dopamine receptor, so we have something that fits here. So things come in and tell the cell what to do. The main point that I want to get across about cell communication is that whether it is the receptor sites that are communicating to the cell, or as some people theorize, the cell membranes themselves are actually sensing kind of the outside world like we do with our skin and reacting to that and reacting to touching other cells around them. But the point is, if we have unhealthy fats that make up our phospholipid membrane, we are going to have unhealthy cells. So how can this happen? Let's draw some things that can cause damage to a cell. So there are fats that are saturated, that make the fatty acids, and then we use them to make a cell. Let's say that fat shape looks like this. This fat shape fits in beautifully with the chain, and it all fits together and it's nice and neat and even. But what happens when oxidative stress, which is also called rancidification, if our fat goes rancid, oxidative stress damages this molecule. Something gets added, and so instead of this shape, we actually have a shape that looks maybe something like that. This is not going to play so nice in our phospholipid membrane. The problem comes, we all eat rancid fats sometimes. The problem comes when we primarily eat rancid fats, because then the body has no choice but to use this molecule to make this membrane. So what is that going to do? Well, if we have our molecules here, there's going to be some problems that can happen. One, maybe their communication doesn't work because they can't touch each other. They don't have as much function or correct function based on their damaged fat molecules. Maybe the receptor sites here don't fit in, and so we don't have very many receptor sites, and so these cells become less sensitive to neurotransmitters and hormones telling the cell what to do. The really big problem comes when this cell stops listening to anything outside of itself and starts replicating within itself as a cell grouping. This is what cancer is, a cell inside our bodies that doesn't talk to the rest of our body. So there's a lot of research showing that rancid fats, this is why trans fats, everyone knows trans fats are bad, but trans fats are rancid fats, and there's other types of rancid fats that you may be consuming. This is why they're banned, because they're known to cause cancer, because the communication gets cut off, because the cell membrane gets damaged. So let's review what's important about this. Over 50% of all of our cell walls, phospholipid membranes, are made from saturated fat. Wait, weren't we told not to eat saturated fat? Maybe we should. Also, the hormones that come to the receptor sites are made of saturated cholesterol molecules as well. And when the cells stop talking to each other, we can cause really serious problems in our bodies. So we want to have communicating cells with good healthy fats. What are good healthy fats? These are stable saturated fats. Lard from pigs, tallow from beef or lamb or other animals. Coconut oil and palm seed oil can be stable saturated fats, but they can also be processed with a high heat or chemical way, which actually makes them rancid, so be careful about that. If you don't know what fat to buy, stick with tallow and lard. The other rule of thumb is when a fat smokes, it is starting to turn rancid. So olive oil could be fine, but if you heat it and it starts smoking, you are now oxidizing it and changing the structure. So we don't want to heat olive oil, we want to eat olive oil cold. Tallow and lard will not become smoky or burn or get browned, right, for quite a while, and those are more stable. Butter is a stable saturated fat, except that it's much more easy to burn butter. It has a lower smoke point, is what we call it, and that means it's going to turn rancid at that point. So what we want to do is utilize fats that are processed well, primarily from animals for saturated animal fat content, and we want to make sure that any fats and oils we use are heated to the proper amounts or not at all. I hope that helps you figure out a little more about saturated fat and how it interacts with the cells and why it's so important for us to eat fat, because you need healthy cells. For more tips, keep watching our channel, and please make sure to subscribe and then send this to someone who would enjoy hearing it. We'll see you next time for more tips on helping your health.